This is Gerald Overmars. Now then, it's very good to have a second vision or second approach for the same words that I did before. And the words that I have examined before, like are HUIS or house, regarding the theory that you can change the letters and the letters' positions in which order they are into a form that expresses these things. The reason why every letter focus is really working as a focus, and it combines these focuses and actually describes very much what it is about. The most difficult thing is, of course, when the letters in meaningfulness are lying very far apart. That makes it more difficult to understand them and to build them up and to redo them, let's say, because they are there where they should be, but to redo them and understand them is more difficult, simply because there are three sorts of categories of sorts of orientations in letters. And if you combine all these variations into a very different focus in each of these possibilities, that makes it of course more difficult, but that doesn't matter. Let's go for HUIS and then house. But of course now this time I will give it an approach which is a bit more educational. So I have to explain what are the difficulties and how you can overcome them, and see where and how you can combine focuses of completely different regions, because there are three different focuses, just as you have three categories there in my letter order. The letter order itself already existed as a Pythagorean numerical order, but it's much more complex and complicated than just numbers. I have changed them into positions that need time, place or context, and this is more or less it. It are actually three different kinds of focuses. So you have either a frame in which you say, okay, here is the object of my focus, or you have a direction, or you have the object itself. The differences between these three focuses is I compare them to 1, 2 or 3 eyes that you need for it, but or 3 parts of focuses that you need for it, but I can explain them differently as well. So this frame is a region of focuses with letters in them that describe them, that are related with the words that you can understand very well, the words of frame, or an end effect that it will have, a feedback process that's in there, or a contextual association that you can have there. I will explain that later, what it refers to. Or the second part is then everything which grows and changes and where you need a time process for it are the direction and directions that you follow is the second category, or you focus completely on the form. And a very easy way to understand why there are three focuses and how they differ and how simple it actually is actually the reference to a plant. And even in the plant there are three very distinctive focuses. You have the form of something where you have a focus upon a form and on a place, which is the blue part. You have the growing part, which grows to another direction where changes happen, and you have the end effect. And the end effect, or the context. The context is here in orange, the growth processes are in green, and where you focus more on objects is in blue. You already see it when some things will get your attention to a form, for instance, when you see a flower and it has a specific form, you will focus again on the form, not on the end effect and the end in this growth process. So it will be combined, of course, depending on what is the kind of attention that demands your attention so that you can describe it with that category of focus. So let's have some examples here. The most difficult one is that one of context, of course. And let's go for the example of the first three letters. So here it is that small focus. The three small focuses in the middle, a bit further away, and at the edges, Q, V, and G. And this starts also from placing my context. The context is placed from a certain starting point. These are the starting points. The third category has a disadvantage just in understanding it, is because it will not have, like in category 1, a steady form. It will not have a steady direction, like in category 2, or a timing that is very clear, or the placement that is also very clear in number 1. It will all depend on context. So there will be a timing involved, there will be a placement involved, but it depends on context. For example, when we have, for instance, when you have a word or an understanding of travel. Travel is always the same thing, but where you travel to depends on the timing and the place. So the travel is always the same. It's always the same kind of thing, but it depends how it's filled in time and place. That's the kind of idea of that context frame. So you have an idea of something, but you can only place it and time it depending on the circumstances that fit to that idea at the moment, at the place. And that's what the context thinking comes from. And of course, it's not just that placement of the frame. There is also direction involved, and there's a placement involved. And I put here two examples of the V and the G. So the G is always at the borders and the V is somewhere in between, but it can vary in size, of course, but the directions are in other still they're still there. So the V has that vertical, the G has that diagonal, so it is there, but you have a placement depending on where it is, when it is, to see where it will overlap with its frame. So the end effect from its frame will be defined by context, of course. So it's a reorganization depending on the situation, where or to whom also the regions belong to. Because V is also about the material, so it actually says, yeah, where will the material go to? Depends, but it will go to somewhere. So Q, V, and G will always be starting points at its specific places, but they will be directed and they will be changeable according to these contextual frame. And the last, the second category then with the three letters, the plus which I have here, which is he, the h, and the r. So the three positions of the second degree of the red zone there of contextual frame are. It's also plus because it's like when you have the area, the frame area, and it's quite big there from the middle. It gives you that feeling also, okay, here I have a quite large area of frame that I can use in my middle focus. It gives you a freedom also what to use with your material, and that's the kind of thing that you use, and that's why it's he, because it gives you more freedom than actually is almost logical. And it's also the positive thing, because it will give you also more results as you normally should have. And it's one of the explanations I didn't give before, so you have something extra here explained. The H is then that area in between. The R is that area at the borders. But of course, depending on context, you can see, okay, but where can it be? It can be filled in, depending on context, where the overlaps will be. And the overlaps will direct it vertically to define the area where it can grow, also where it can be prosperous, and there it will allow free passage of actually all the material which is there and which can be found in that area that is defined in H. So you have a region in which there's such an organization that it says, okay, here in between these circumstances, because that's what it is, that's what the context of circumstance of H describes. These are the circumstances in which the material has free passage. It's a free zone of movement and so on, in which you have a kind of highlighting for vertical behavior that is actually free to be there as well. So H is also remembered very well as the breath. So it is like oxygen. It is have an area in which it will have all the oxygen that it needs so that it can build up something there. That's more or less the sense that you have there. There are reasons why this is there as well, but this is a geometrical associations are there as well. I can explain them in different ways, but I think you have the sense. So you have that area in which the material can be freely circulating, because it has that confinement in which the place is defined, in which all the material can have its own highlighting behavior. And the last three letters, of course, will be at the edges, the frames at the edges, like the S. Also quite difficult to find the form, because they're also there. These frames can be different, but they're always at the edges, and that makes it easy. And there's also this diagonal involved, and after you find the diagonal pressure points, you can find the places in between where actually the S form or the S sense will be sensed, will be experienced, and the form which is in there is also quite loose and loosely, and that makes it also difficult to define it more correctly, so that you understand it and that it's framed enough in its sense that you can't make any mistakes. It takes a while to get a very good definition. You know the position. It's at the borders. It's at the diagonal. So you know all the elements that deal with it. But there are some variations there, and I have already described how these variations and definitions are defined. But still, then to get a form at the end will be somewhat more difficult. But I will give you a bit more explanations in this video, so you get a form at the end as a kind of effect upon a form from that frame. So from that frame at the outer side you could have, so the outer effects have that outer frame, but it can also be pushed inside, of course, and you have some variations. But there always this kind of outside effect. The effect comes from outside. It remains outside, or it will have that outside effect upon the thing itself. And that's why this S form is very much describing these pushing points. And even though you have some variations in form, that's one of the more difficult positions to change it into a mathematical sense, I think. So I really need some help there, how to make that possible as a mathematical formula. But this image already gives you very much an idea of what you need for it, and what you need as a focus and as a push back actually on the rest of the material that you have. So we have already enough now here to have an expression of the quite difficult word, because it has a frame from the context that it starts with, ends with the context, and then has also a letter from the second degree and one of the first degree. So there's very varied, and you don't have an immediate connection, but I will make that connection. So we will go and start to express HUIS first, that's the Dutch word for it. That Dutch word is actually the most easy one and most reflecting one of how we imagine the house, what is a house and what it will do to us, psychological as well, as a form. Everything in it will be expressed in these just 4 letters. So of course we will start with a letter from the which is framed, which will look for its frame with H. So the H, we already know it can come in different sizes, in different ranges, depending on the context, but it will frame an area that is, because it's in the second degree, an area in the in-between zone. So somewhere in between a zone. And there it will have a vertical push. And that vertical push will say, okay, here I will limit the growth. I will limit the growth, and I say, okay, from here to here, I know now this is the area in which the growth can be optimal. It can breathe completely. There it is. That's the area. I have defined it now also with the verticals. So I have already the frame. Now I have the verticals, the 2 verticals. And then in the end, of course, I go also in logic deeper. I have the frame, I have the direction, and now I have the place. Thanks to that, I found the place in which H can be prosperous. Here I have 3 examples, and they're all expressed H. And that's a very good place to build and to live and to have a viable situation in there. And that's what it expresses. Here's my viable founding place, is the grounding place, is my plan even. That what I see, okay, here is a house that I want to build. There I will feel good about it already, because there the things that I will build there will feel prosperous. That's also the H, so it's already there in the planning. The second letter in the Dutch word is the U, and that's from the first category. It's a direct focus upon the form, and it focuses especially on the place, somewhere in between the form, where the form will grow inside it, and there is focused upon. That's the letter U. It's the same for all the words with U. But it's not just U, it's HUIS. It is a combination of U with I, if you look at the written down letters. And it's even expressed as a combination, so it will not be solely the U. It will be I. And I will add, of course, in my example. So I had already the H, so we will add the U and then the I to it as well in the frame that I have. So we have already a frame here. It is resumed, my frame, somewhere in between, where the form can grow out and where I have the limitations put there with my verticals, and I say, okay, here's my plan. Here the form should take place. Now I will add the form with U. Okay, first, the frame a little bit more clear. So I have, of course, now room for the material to grow into. The U, where is the U? It was defined before. The U is somewhere in between the form. So I had the frame will become my form, the frame itself will become the form, and there will be a part in it. It's a part which I follow. I add a part, so it provides me this extra area in between, in the big one. In the big frame, I have a smaller frame now as well. I keep a little bit of that idea from the H where I started with, so I will have to keep a little bit of H in U as well, so I'll have it also as a frame at a certain part, just like U says, at a certain part I will add an extra frame. With the E, it also says in this frame I will have an entry point. Actually, that's what it will be, and I will show you 2 examples from where the positions could be. It is, of course, we have H. There will always have to be 3 examples to be clear. So I will make also 3 examples, not just 2. I will make 3 examples in which you can see, okay, I have 3 different positions possible at the edge. I could have add one more in the middle, but I have here 3 different positions I have. And it's almost like it's going to be recognizable already from which entry points I have here. I almost have a window, a door, and I can't remember the English word for this. It's something with it. I forgot. So you have an extra place there as well. So with the S added, I will have the S, which is the end effect, or the effect that it will be in between or coming from outside in between as the effect, or going outside of coming in. 3 variations again. With S, you always is very good if you can see the 3 variations and then its range. And this image is actually almost exactly like we would have it when we ask a child to paint a house. How will that look like? We'll have these elements and these focuses. Because when you ask, except for the roof, because the roof is not included, but except for the roof, you have the 3 kinds of focuses. You have an entry door with the S going in. You have an entry in the window with just inwardly also this window vision, and you have something that comes out, which is the smoke. And for why is this presented? If you ask a child to draw a house, it gives him or her the impression, okay, but this is when there's smoke, it's a nice place to be, because then there's warmth inside and so on. You have a door, so you have an entry, so you also add the entry. And that's all related with the letters that are describing it actually. It's already a house in which you will feel good. With the S, this will also show the effect to feel good. With an entry out, an entry in. It's almost unbelievable how well it fits with how we perceive house as a concept, or how a child receives this concept, except of the roof on top of that we have a roof over our head. That idea is not 100%, is not expressed here. But all the other elements are already there, just in the letter's choice. It will be much more difficult to have the English word. That's because the English word, okay, we'll start all over. We have the H, and then the H will go into the O. And the O is something with 2 frames. You have 2 moments. So you have that expression in O. It's in the second category. It's about timing, about changes, about direction. So that's why you have 2 focuses, not just the 3, like you have the variations. You show the variations, and thanks to knowing the variations, you know which elements you need to have all the variations together, because then you have a sum of variations that define the conditions, as you had in HUIS. H here is the also 3 sorts of conditions that have 3 sorts of expressions of the house. I could even say here the H, that's the bottom part, it's the grow part, and it's the roof. Perhaps even these 3 regions are even there. So the roof in the end could have been expressed there as well, if you really would add that extra layer there as well. But okay, the O is about time, is about changes. So it is about, now we're already building a foundation. The O will actually be about what are we going to do here, what is going to change here, what are the changes that we deal with here. In this case, the O will be combined with U. So how do we have to understand the sound ow? as a combination of all with U, just like we write it down. So that what will be there, it will be these moments. So we will go to a certain moment where things will change. So you have two different moments. So you have it, or you either have it or you don't have the conditions. So you just go to the conditions, and these conditions will be physical in U, and these conditions they will have given a form, or we will look into the form at some point or another. So basically, if you combine them, it says, okay, let's go to the rightful place in which the things are placed so that you can have them enfolded there. So it has also taken the time to form. As a combination in house, and even with the ending with the letter E and the end, it very much gives us the idea of, now this is more than a house where I feel good. It's more about how can we construct a house, how we can take the time for it to shape itself, to show its effect, where it's available, what elements there is. There's much more change into the word house. Changeable, what kind of effect will it have on me? How shall I build it? House is much more, it's much more construction. And of course with A, the H will find its place, the OW will find where it will work, and in the end it should have also the right effect that I build it there. But it's really busy with that constructive idea. It's much more difficult to also make a real good form from it. But the idea of house, how it has been expressed in English, really has a completely different effect. It's really focusing much more on how, okay, here it is livable. I also have to have the moment. I also have to have the good material. It's almost like I'm constantly building already. I'm the architect and I'm busy with that architectural idea more than, okay, there's the house that's there. And that's a bit strange. I think that it has that kind of construction idea on it. But that is probably the idea that it will give you. The house is the house that we built upon further. The houses that we built upon further again and again in its changeable state as well, much more than huis, which is just that place there where I like to live, and that's it. Not much changes there and so on. Here, house as a word choice with its letter is much more a construction, and we could of course investigate, is that also the way how the word house is used, or is that has that a tendency indeed to be busy with it constantly, so that we can also change it and build further upon it. Maybe it is okay. That's just guesswork, of course, from now on. But I'm sure that will have an influence. Anyhow, especially huis was very easy to grasp. House a little bit more difficult, but maybe at some other time I will have a better idea with more educative build up around it, that I can see it better than this time. But you can already see what house and huis give you as differences with different sounds used there. And I have also some extra explanation of some other letters that I didn't do before, so I hope you enjoyed this one. There's some books here to prepare you further if you like to see also different angles from the same thing again and again. You have the Sound Informed website, you have a Facebook page. You're welcome there to subscribe to any of these. Thanks again for watching. Bye.